12 strange sights on Google Earth. 12. Drought across the U.S. Drought in the United States is similar to that of other portions of the globe. Below normal precipitation leads to drought, and is caused by an above-average persistence of high pressure over the affected area. Changes in the track of extratropical cyclones, which can occur during climate cycles such as the El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO, as well as the North Atlantic Oscillation, Pacific Decadal Oscillation, and Atlantic Multidecadal Oscillation, modulate which areas are more prone to drought. Increased drought frequency and severity is also expected to be one of the effects of global warming. The country's contiguous western and especially southwestern region has experienced widespread droughts since about year 2000. Drought having an acute economic impact in the history of the United States occurred during the 1930s and 1940s, periods of time known as Dust Bowl years where relief and health agencies became overburdened and many local community banks had to close. The event also led to significant changes in farming practices emphasizing soil conservation and water resource management, inspired further growth in U.S. water storage and delivery infrastructure as part of the New Deal, and influenced other social changes. 11. Algal blooms. An algal bloom or algae bloom is a rapid increase or accumulation in the population of algae in freshwater or marine water systems. It is often recognized by the discoloration in the water from the algae's pigments. The term algae encompasses many types of aquatic photosynthetic organisms, both macroscopic multicellular organisms like seaweed and microscopic unicellular organisms like cyanobacteria. Algal bloom commonly refers to the rapid growth of microscopic unicellular algae, not macroscopic algae. An example of a macroscopic algal bloom is a kelp forest. Algal blooms are the result of a nutrient, like nitrogen or phosphorus from fertilizer runoff, entering the aquatic system and causing excessive growth of algae. An algal bloom affects the whole ecosystem. Consequences range from the benign feeding of higher trophic levels to more harmful effects like blocking sunlight from reaching other organisms, causing a depletion of oxygen levels in the water, and, depending on the organism. 10. China's Area 51. It inspires comparisons to Area 51, a massive, 3-mile-long runway in a remote patch of Chinese desert, hundreds of miles from any cities. Now, it looks like the site is undergoing an expansion. Satellite imagery from the commercial company Maxar supplied exclusively to NPR shows around a dozen large concrete buildings under construction near the landing strip. The buildings mark a significant change at the airfield, which up until now lacked much in the way of permanent accommodation. I think we're observing what appears to be a pretty important facility for China's military space activities that appears to be growing, says Ankit Panda, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace who tracks space issues there. The runway, on the edge of China's former nuclear weapons test range at Lop Nuer, sprung from nowhere in 2016. In 2020, observers believe that China landed a highly classified 9. The Richat structure of Mauritania has captured the attention of astronauts for about as long as NASA has sent humans into orbit around Earth. This circular geologic feature is thought to be caused by an uplifted dome. Geologists would classify it as a domed anticline that has been eroded to expose the originally flat rock layers. In this type of geologic structure, rocks exposed in the center of the bullseye are older than rocks forming the outer rings. This structure measures 45 kilometers, 28 miles, across and is made up of igneous and sedimentary rocks. There are several faults visible, lower left, where strata that were once continuous have been shifted apart. Most of Mauritania lies within the Sahara Desert, where dry climate conditions and periodic droughts create difficult living conditions. Approximately 3.7 million people live in Mauritania, though much of the population lives along its Atlantic coastline, about 500 kilometers, 300 miles, from the Richat structure. 8. The Boneyard. An aircraft boneyard or aircraft graveyard is a storage area for aircraft that are retired from service. Most aircraft at boneyards are either kept for storage with some maintenance or have their parts removed for reuse or resale and are then scrapped. Boneyard facilities are generally located in deserts, such as those in the southwestern United States, since the dry conditions reduce corrosion and the hard ground does not need to be paved. The 309th Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group in Tucson, Arizona, the largest facility of its kind, is colloquially known as the Boneyard. 7. The key to a green future: energy management, efficiency and lower carbon trail are some of the key benefits of smart power in homes, buildings and industries. As the world moves towards cleaner sources of power, energy efficiency is no longer an option, but a necessity. Operations in modern industries and commercial spaces are growing more complex with each passing day, and users are faced with numerous challenges. Continuity and quality of power, safety against fire hazards, effective cooling design, high reliability, minimum downtime, ease of maintenance, flexibility for upgradation, and cost of energy and motor management are some of the major aspects to ensure operational efficiency. Across industries, be it oil and gas, minerals, metals and mining, automobiles, hotels, hospitals or data centers, it is important to ensure that equipment or processes are in full compliance with predetermined standards and use clean energy sources that drive CO reduction and lower carbon trails. Use of smart technologies offers one of the safest and most reliable options to address these challenges, especially in the area of power. Power distribution can be made smart through integrated solution offering, which comprises of complete power distribution solutions integrated with energy monitoring softwares which provide all the tools and analysis to the customer to improve the efficiency of their system. This in turn results in efficient productivity and maximized profits. Equipment with local, remote and cloud-based software, such smart power solutions ensure smooth management of the entire network and help in asset management. This includes safe electrical distribution, power monitoring and control system, power quality analysis, motor management and diagnostic. 6. Fire across the Amazon: thousands of fires are burning across a southern swath of the Amazon. They belch smoke and soot, blanketing those who live downwind with thick, dirty air, hurting wildlife in their path and destroying part of one of the most important carbon storehouses left on the planet. About 76,000 fires were burning across the Brazilian Amazon at last official count, an increase of over 80% over the same time period last year, according to data from Brazil's National Institute for Space Research (INPE). Since then, even more fires have appeared in the satellite imagery that scientists use to assess the extent and intensity of burning, and they expect the number to increase over coming months as the dry season intensifies. The fires themselves are destructive and devastating, but their primary cause is more concerning, says Anne Alencar, the director of science at the Amazon Environmental Research Institute (IPAM). The majority of the fires we're seeing now are because of deforestation, she says. It's crazy. We reduced deforestation by almost 65% in the past. We proved that we could do that. And now we're going backwards. 5. Bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef: when corals are stressed by changes in conditions such as temperature, light, or nutrients, they expel the symbiotic algae living in their tissues, causing them to turn completely white. Warmer water temperatures can result in coral bleaching. When water is too warm, corals will expel the algae zooxanthellae living in their tissues, causing the coral to turn completely white. This is called coral bleaching. When a coral bleaches, it is not dead. Corals can survive a bleaching event, but they are under more stress and are subject to mortality. In 2005, the US lost half of its coral reefs in the Caribbean in 1 year due to a massive bleaching event. The warm waters centered around the northern Antilles near the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico expanded southward. Comparison of satellite data from the previous 20 years confirmed that thermal stress from the 2005 event was greater than the previous 20 years combined. Not all bleaching events are due to warm water. In January 2010, cold water temperatures in the Florida Keys caused a coral bleaching event that resulted in some coral death. Water temperatures dropped 12.06 degrees Fahrenheit lower than the typical temperatures observed at this time of year. Researchers will evaluate if this cold stress event will make corals more susceptible to disease in the same way that warmer waters impact corals. 4. Burning Man. We have had to adapt to the twists and turns of a global crisis, complex public health information, and the growing hope that we can start rebuilding our lives together soon. We have decided to set our sights on Black Rock City 2022. We have the time now to imagine what we can bring to BRC 2022 that will really make a difference. Learn more in our recent journal post, Burning Man 2022, Waking Dreams. You can stay up to date with the latest info about Black Rock City by subscribing to the Burning Man Journal and signing up for the Jackrabbit Speaks e-newsletter. Once a year, tens of thousands of people gather in Nevada's Black Rock Desert to create Black Rock City, a temporary metropolis dedicated to community, art, self-expression, and self-reliance. In this crucible of creativity, all are welcome. 3. The end of the dunes. Mountains of sand, some as tall as 300 meters, 1,000 feet, reach from the floor of Africa's Namib Desert toward the sky. Driven by wind, these dunes march across the desert, bordered to the west by the Atlantic Ocean and in other directions by solid, rocky land. The abrupt transition from sand to land is visible in these images, acquired on November 13, 2019, by the operational land imager OLI on Landsat 8. They show the northern extent of the Namib Sand Sea, a field of sand dunes spanning more than 3 million hectares, more than 10,000 square miles, within the Namib Naukluft Park, which was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2013. Sand appears red, painted by a layer of iron oxide. The images show a region along the northern boundary of the Namib Sand Sea, which generally traces the path of the Kuiseb River. The sporadic flow of the Kuiseb River depends on flooding rains that can occur during the rainy season, typically from November to March. Floods, such as one in April 2011, wash away accumulated sand and temporarily halt the north. 2. The U.S. at night. The night lights of the United States, as seen from space. This remarkable image is actually a composite of hundreds of images created using satellite data collected at night. The brightest areas of the Earth are the most urbanized, but not necessarily the most populated. Compare Western Europe with China and India. Cities tend to grow along coastlines and transportation networks. Even without the underlying map, the outlines of many continents would still be visible. The United States interstate highway system appears as a lattice connecting the brighter dots of city centers. In Russia, the Trans-Siberian Railroad is a thin line stretching from Moscow through the center of Asia to Vladivostok. The Nile River, from the Aswan Dam to the Mediterranean Sea, is another bright thread through an otherwise dark region. Even more than 100 years after the invention of the electric light, some regions remain thinly populated and unlit. 1. The Red Planet. The InSight mission will look at Mars's seismic activity and latent heat to find out more about how planets get made, and how humans might live there. Absolutely spectacular mission, and it's not a rover, it's a lander. It's designed to land and deploy several instruments. Jim Green, NASA's new chief scientist, talking about the InSight mission to Mars. InSight interior exploration using seismic investigations, geodesy and heat transport, launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California the morning of May 5. He spoke with Scientific American space editor Lee Billings, who recorded their conversation. One instrument will be set on the surface and will measure Marsquakes. Now, why are Marsquakes important? Well, Marsquakes, because we can get the acoustic signals and see how they are displayed in time. We can tease out the size of the core, even if it's liquid or not, the size of the mantle and the crust, and compare those with the big terrestrial planet, Earth, that we know a lot about its interior. And this will really help us understand how terrestrial planets are made. Green was NASA's Planetary Science Division Director since 2006 before taking on his current assignment just last week. Back to the InSight mission. But in general, it also has a human exploration part to it. For instance, we know Mars is quaking. We have seen with Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, from orbit, avalanches.